Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, the 26th of January, and this is our monthly Halton Police Board meeting. To those who are on the Zoom call, and also to those who are watching, hopefully on YouTube, we are meeting in a virtual format today, 100% virtual, due to what we had originally anticipated as being what I like to call Snowmageddon, which didn't quite appear. But some of us still have laneways yet to be plowed and streets yet to be plowed. So we are happy to be able to meet in a complete board as a result of this Zoom facility, which ironically is also on the agenda today. Mr. Committee Secretary or Board Secretary, do we have any regrets today? I guess the Secretary is regretting.
No regrets, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Members of the board, do we have any disclosures of conflict of interest today to declare? Not seeing any, we'll move along. We have confirmation of minutes from our last meeting, which was held on Thursday, December 22nd. Assuming everybody's had a chance to read the minutes, I would love to have a mover and seconder to approve the minutes. Thank you, Nav. Seconded by... Thank you, Kurt. Any comments, questions, errors, or omissions to report? All in favor of the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting? Thank you, those are approved. We have only one item on our consent agenda today. That's the 2023 membership renewal in the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards. This is automatic in the sense that it's in our policy that we are members of OAPSB, and this is simply on the agenda for the information of board and service that we are renewing. So I'm just looking for a motion to receive that memo. Thank you, Clark. Seconded by. Thank you, Ingrid. All in favor? That's carried. We have a number of items on our discussion agenda. I want to start out with the one I had alluded to earlier, 4.1, which is amendments to our procedural bylaw. Graham, do you want to frame this for us?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just responding to the board's direction to establish some policies regarding attendance at hybrid meetings, remote attendance at meetings going forward. So again, just tidying up policy, really bringing it in line with board practice.
Thank you, Graham. Members of the board, have you had a chance to read this? I'm assuming you all have had a chance to read this, I should say. Any comments or questions? So if we're satisfied with the proposal, I'd look for a motion to approve. Thank you, Nav. Thank you, Clark. Last chance for comments or questions. All in favor? Board members' hands. Thank you. That's approved. Thank you very much. Thanks, Graham, for the great work, and Fred for the background. 4.2, the quarterly human resources summary. Anybody have any questions on this item? Ingrid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just looked at the resignations and the retirements for our sworn officers. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Good. And I see that we're sitting at total of 19 retirements and 26 resignations. Is that higher than what we usually have, or is this pretty well the norm?
Chief.
Yeah, I would say retirements really is the norm. We have about 35 officers leave the service typically in a year, but we are experiencing, I believe we're experiencing and will continue to experience a larger number of individuals who are mobile and moving amongst police services. So the board might remember, I believe the last meeting in 2022, we mentioned that a number of officers had left at the same time to join the Ontario Provincial Police. Two of them have already come back. Which is a good news story. It's sort of a, the grass is not always greener, that type of situation. But it really is driven by economics. A lot of the individuals who are leaving, and I would say I have not heard of one of those officers who are leaving to go to another service because they are somehow unhappy or disgruntled. with their career or with the Halton Regional Police, but they're going for different family reasons and opportunities. And the cost of housing is going to be one driver in that area. When whether you're a young person or an older officer with our service is able, perhaps they've invested in a house here years ago, sell it for what it's worth now and move to an area that's like North Bay, hypothetically, purchase a house for 250 or 300,000 when you've sold one for $1 million. So it is going to be a driver, I think, on that end. We also, on the other side, have a number of officers applying to come here from other services. And I would say that our frontline constables, or a well-trained professional frontline constable is probably one of the most mobile professions right now to be in. Certainly there's opportunities in nursing, and we know all the healthcare stories, but it is going to continue, I believe.
And I know we do exit interviews, but it might be interesting to find out for the two individuals who have returned, what was the issue that made them leave the OPP and come back? Maybe we can learn something from that experience.
Yeah, we have done a little bit of that, not for the public session, but certainly, what the opportunities that appear to exist, or the promises that are made sometimes, as far as where someone may be working, sometimes don't come to fruition.
Yeah. And the other question I have is on the civilian side. We have 9 retirements and 11 resignations. Again, how does that compare to previous years?
I would think retirements are average. I'm not sure, Tracy, if you've been here long enough to comment on the trends. We have had, amongst the resignations, I would anecdotally say that I believe we've had a number of people who have joined the service, for example, in communications. I believe we had 4 new dispatchers join the service last year, and 3 out of 4, for different reasons, decided it was not the right career for them. It's a very stressful situation. It involves working night shifts. I think one person left because it was 2 night shifts and all those sorts of things. One would hope that people would research that sort of part of the job before they get into it, but sometimes you get into it and you realize it's different, and it's probably better that people that realize that it's not for them leave sooner rather than staying on too long. So Tracy, I don't know, and Jeff, you had your hand up there as well, sorry.
Well, actually, I have a speakers list. So Kurt was up next, and then we'll come to Jeff.
Okay, thank you.
Just a comment, Mr. Chair, that I would make. I've kind of been tracking the civilian vacancies, and I'm just wondering if we think we have the right number of positions. If we can carry 25 or 30 vacancies, unless that's abnormally high, how are we operating? Are we causing, or is this causing additional stress, which may be leading in some ways or influencing the resignations? I'm just looking for comment, if possible.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And through the chair, it's the deputies and I were just talking about this briefly this morning. There are some positions that we're continuing to try to fill, and we've had difficulty filling them, particularly in the human resource area. I noticed there's 7 vacancies there in our communications, which is, as I talked about, our dispatchers, and 3 out of the 4 that did not work out. And now we've had some retirements there just recently. So those 7 spots should all be filled as soon as possible. But we do want to take a look again and see if there are some positions that, if it's consistent in 1 position or 2 positions that have not been filled, then let's have a look and see if those dollars need to be realigned to a different position in the organization that we've been trying to budget for, or whatever that way, and reutilize the funds. So I would say, Mr. Allen, if you give us perhaps to the end of the first quarter, and we'll see what those vacancies look like at that point, and any recommendations we have to maybe close down a position or 2 and reallocate those dollars.
Thank you.
Deputy Hill. The real Deputy Hill.
Thank you, sir. Just a comment and a plug. One with the comms positions, those actually will be filled this week. So that's going to be taken care of. And I just wanted to give a plug to our recruiting team. You are right, Ms. Hand, that the resignations are abnormally high, but if you look at the summary, we actually on the sworn side finished +9 above strength. So our recruiting team has done an amazing job at keeping up with this the ebb and flow and put us in a positive light at the end of the year. And that's a combination of new recruits and the experienced hires we've done. So I just wanted to give them a plug on the good work they've done over this past year.
Thank you, Jeff. Anything further?
Yeah, yes, if I might.
Sorry. Kurt, go ahead.
Sorry if I might, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
I'm just curious as to whether or not exit interviews are being performed by HR in these resignation situations.
Can't see if Tracy's on there, but yes, we do. Tracy through HR does the exit interviews and keeps track of what the answers are and provides a summary to the chief and the 2 deputies so we can see and identify if there's any trends or any concerns that we need to be worried about.
Is there anything there that's noteworthy that you could share?
I'll defer to Tracy again. I know from my own personal perspective, a lot of it is what the chief already said, is people going for other areas. We've had a couple people leave to explore completely different types of work, financial positions, for example. It seems to be a trend. But a lot of it has been people going to other services and just no complaints about us, no issues with us, just simply my family's here, it'll be better for my family. And that's been predominantly it. Tracy, if you have anything to add, sorry, I can't see you.
I haven't seen Tracy's hand up. Oh, Tracy's hand's up now. Tracy, you want to comment?
I saw the chief's hand go up before mine, but I was just going to respond that there's nothing noteworthy that's come about with our exit interviews. We are trying to get a little bit more particular and drawing out more information from them to see if there's any further details maybe they're not sharing. But at this point, it's exactly what the deputy and the chief has mentioned, as well as to most of the departures. Or we had one individual that came in for 1 day and left after 1 day, just change of heart as to the position. But beyond that, there's nothing really noteworthy.
Can I clarify that for a moment? Was that a civilian or a sworn officer?
It was a civilian.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, showing up for 1 day after all the training and everything would be quite remarkable.
No, it was, they thought it was a good move, and their previous employer came back to them with something better, so they went back, which happens every now and then, and that's the only one that's really noteworthy.
Yeah, I've had that in my own private business happen. It's very disturbing. Chief.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add, from time to time, people will come to me to do their exit interviews because they're retiring. And so we do it with our retirees as well. And of particular interest, I think, to the board, we had 3 dispatchers who have retired from the service within the last week or 2. We had a fair size event here for them about a week ago. 37 years, and 35 years.
Wow.
So I spent at least an hour with each one of those people. They're really happy with their career in dispatch 911 communications. 2 of them will be coming back to help us on contract. It's just that their full-time expiration date came. But one actually came in with a fully completed exit interview form, already pre-typed, and they absolutely love the opportunities in that room and working with all the various people. And I can't even imagine the number of different calls that those people took in 109 years of dispatching. So no, a lot of people leave here very positive, but it's just time. And that's a part of it as well.
Thanks, Chief. Ingrid, you separated this item. Would you like to move it, please? Okay, receipt's been moved. Could I get a seconder for that motion, please? Thank you, Lisa. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to 4.3, that's the semi-annual complaint statistical report. Do anybody have any questions on this particular report? Nav, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question regarding process of complaints. If there, once the chief has had a chance to look at it, if that complaint deserves or someone requests a board review, is that something that's on the website as a process?
Who's going to respond to that?
I'm my mute button there. Sorry about that.
There you go, Chief.
So a lot of our complaints now come in through the OIPRD. So the Office of the Independent Public Review Director is set up so that citizens can make a complaint to an independent body. I have always said, and I'll say again today, I believe that in an ideal world, the OIPRD would be completely staffed and they would investigate every one of those complaints. But as you'll see further on, most of the complaints, probably well over 90%, are sent back to the service to investigate. So then they're investigated by our Professional Standards Bureau. A large number of those are either withdrawn by the complainant, they've reached some of sort of an understanding, or things have been explained to them, or it's unsubstantiated. Those reports then go back to the OIPRD, who can choose to say, no, we are still going to look at this, or we would like you to do this further. That hardly ever happens. There are service complaints which come to the board, but they're very, very seldom. So that's a little bit of a different category. If someone's actually complaining about the level of the service or the service from the police service, as opposed to the conduct of an individual officer. So if those are the ones you're asking about, Ms. Seacon, Ken, I think's online. Do you have any particular comments, Ken?
I believe he's on mute.
If you can find your
Sorry,
mute.
yeah, I couldn't find the unmute button. No, I don't have any comments. Sorry.
Further comments or questions? Nav, are you satisfied?
No, I guess my question was rather because based on this report, it mentions that a review by the board is done after if the individual is not satisfied after 30 days. I'm just wondering if on the website that mentions that process, whether a complainant could do that, or is that just for internal complaints?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, it's that ability to appeal is made available on not only our website, but also the OIPRD website. And if you recall, we did have an appeal from an individual who was not satisfied, and it was dealt with by the board last year.
Okay, I'm just wondering. I just sort of glanced at the website and I did not see that information. So I thought maybe Kimberly should take a look at that. Thank you.
We could certainly ask Kimberly to have a look and make sure that it's because I think Ken's referring to the services website and you're referring to our website, which are two different.
Yeah, it's a service website. Yes.
Yeah. So Kimberly could definitely have a look at that. Put that on her list. Thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry, Mr. Chair, can you just check that it is on ours 100%, or you're saying that already?
No, and even when we respond to policy complaints that might invoke the board's mandate, we indicate in the response letters that they have the right to appeal to the board.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think it's a good observation that it should be Kim should have a look at that, and Kimberly should have a look at that and make sure that that is clear on our board site as well. Thanks, Nav. Can you move that for me? Thank you. Seconded, please. Seconded. Thank you, Clark. I forgot to ask, are there further questions or comments on this item 4.3? Seeing none, all in favor of receipt? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to 4.4. This is on the Marine 2 procurement. Staff team, are there any opening comments? I know that Lisa has a question, but are there any opening comments before I go to Lisa? Not seeing any. I guess the report's pretty self-explanatory. Lisa, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. This is a very exciting report and an amazing investment we're making in our marine emergency response approach, especially as we do know that operations continue to change. So I do see a future plan for replacement of the engine in 2031. And I'm just wondering, have we taken into account any additional technology upgrades that may be needed in the future as well?
Chief, is that you, or are you going to defer to somebody?
I will start. Jeff or Paul may want to chime in on what they know about specifics, but I do know what Ms. Kearns through the chair. We always look at the technology, especially when it comes to our marine units, and we all try to get out, and I'd welcome any of the board members to get out with the marine unit and wait for really nice weather. But mainly a lot of their technology is around GPS and the navigational systems and how reliable are they and how accurate are they, especially for search and rescue on the water, although that's a moving sort of target, literally. But they do a lot of work out there in the middle of the night. We had some long searches over the past year or two for a couple of missing boaters, both who perished ultimately as a result of their boating accident or whatever had happened. But we will certainly look at the technology on those boats as well. It's a substantial investment.
So just to be more clear, what I'm seeing is the plan for the physical upgrades in 2031, but I don't see anything allocated or budgeted for technology in the future to expand the life cycle. Has that been accounted for?
Yeah, I would say normally we would not, for a vessel, specifically budget for future technology, but we would address that and we would build it into the budgets as we go.
Deputy Hill has some additional information for you.
So that's actually kind of what we're, that's actually what the recommendation is. What the point of saying that is that the engines are going to cost in 2031 $150,000. And if you see that we talk about, we did our due diligence to make sure to check the status of the boat, and you'll see us talking about the moisture inside the hull. So what we're asking for is actually, due to what you're saying, is instead of spending $150,000, it's better for us to sell the boat now for approximately $150,000, because we were going to, what we're asking for is to get the money, or we already actually, the board's already approved the money. We're just talking about moving it ahead so that we can get a bigger, better boat and build a bigger, better boat based on a lot of what you've said, recognizing that there's technology there that we have to advance. So it's a lot about the moisture in the hull. And I'm not an expert in this area, but I understand as the higher concentration is what was found, it just causes damage. And the longer it stays that way, the resale value on our boat will go down. And that's why we're suggesting that it's best to do it now.
Thank you. Looking forward to the bigger, better boat and happy to move this through the chair.
And I'd like everybody to say bigger, better boat 3 times fast. Okay, thank you. You're moving that, Lisa. Thank you. Can I get a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Ingrid. And further comments or questions? And let's do the vote on the bigger, better boat. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, everybody. 4.7 is, I jumped 1. That's the cone limited tendering. This is for our elevators at headquarters. Does anybody have any comments or questions on this? Nav, go ahead.
Sorry, just a question around whether it's included in the budget.
Chief or deputies or Paul or somebody?
I was going to nominate Paul. Thank you.
Yes.
Paul,
you've been nominated.
To you, Mr. Chair. When we go through the budget process, we look at our actual spends in the prior years. So we would have seen the additional spending and increased our budget for this. And we'll continue to watch the incremental amounts and make sure that we're not missing any service work that this $80,000 is intended to cover. So yes, it's in the budget.
Thank you.
So there are no downs, only ups on that question. Anyway, Nav, would you be so kind to move the approval of that? Thank you. Seconded by? Lisa, thank you very much. Last call for comments or questions. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Okay, so we're moving on to 4.6. This is kind of an exciting report. This is our governance modernization project status report. A lot of work's been done to date, and this is Fred's report to give us an update on where we stand. Fred, take it away.
Thank you, Chair. Essentially, the governance modernization project was launched in 2021, about just over a year and a half ago. And it features 4 components: the policy modernization, the board-led strategic planning, the results-based evaluation systems, and the web-based interactive board training. Regarding policy modernization, the governance policies have been completed. There's 11 of them. There's always going to be some updates, particularly regarding number 7, the governance calendar, because it's linked to other policies. Several of the administrative policies have been updated. There's a couple more to do. And of the operations policies, the board recently passed events of strategic significance related policy, and not too long ago had updated its sexual assault investigation policy. There's a lot more on the operations side that need to be done, and we're waiting for the province to complete the development of new regulations under the new Police Services Act, which will drive a lot of the board's policies on the operations side. The next one is the board-led strategic planning. The board has adopted the policy regarding that, which essentially brings the strategic planning effort directly under board supervision. And the board is also budgeted in the governance budget for third-party assistance with engaging the public through surveys and focus groups. The third component is the results-based evaluation system. And the board's made a lot of progress here from there really was very little before. Notably, there are evaluation systems now for the chief, the chair, the board as a whole, board members, and the chair. The next step will be to update the evaluation system for the service as a whole. Web-based interactive board training is the fourth component of the modernization program, and that's really scheduled to begin next year. And we're just starting to put some of the pieces together. We've already adopted the competency model, which is based on the Institute of Corporate Directors model for private sector board members, and it's tailored towards the new Police Services Act. And we've been slowly updating our orientation program in the meantime, and Councillor Kearns was the first one to see the first component of that 2 weekends ago. If there's any questions, Mr. Chair.
We have a few. Nav's up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question for the chief regarding policies. Board policies are implemented, and I thank Fred for doing a great job at implementing a lot of these board policies. So a question around how the board policies are integrated, or have they changed the service policies, how to make them consistent and ensure compliance? What has been done?
Well, I think some of these are just being implemented now, so we haven't changed a lot of our policies in response to it. And our policies tend to be more operational procedures. Is there something specific that you would be asking or looking for?
Yes. So, for example, if we had, the board policies around performance measurement, how does that? Obviously, we are not in isolation. The board is not acting in isolation. So there will be some impact on the service. So whether some of the policies need to be changed or checked, whether they need to be changed in order to comply to the board policies. Is that something that is a responsibility that is dedicated to a person, or so therefore, I think what I'm hearing is there hasn't been any impact to the service policies due to the board policies.
No, we would certainly review any new board policies and see if it has an impact on our internal procedures. A lot of the board policies will prioritize things when it comes to performance management. So, I mean, you're not going to have a board policy specifically on auto theft, but we would look at what we're doing in relation to auto theft if that's what the board policy was. You have a policy now that deals with my performance appraisal, and the board has provided the format for that. So we simply use that. That's not a case where I would need to change an internal policy to deal with that. That's a one-off unique situation. But if there is something that impacts on the service that we need to prioritize something differently, it may not be a board policy. It may be the upcoming board strategic plan. If there's a different priority identified in our upcoming planning process, we would adjust what the service does, and that would not require a board policy change to get us to do that. We would be doing it as we do to comply with the strategic plan in that case.
Okay, thank you.
Nav, can I suggest that an outcome to your question might be that we request that the service provide a review of the governance policies that we've approved, and even if some of them say no change is required, but just to go through them itemized so that we have it on record clearly that the board has reviewed, or that the service has reviewed our policies and made adjustments where required. Would that be something that you'd find useful? I certainly would. Definitely.
I mean, it's a matter of process management because we are cascading board policies through the service. It is incumbent on the service to ensure that the service complies or is checked. There's a check. So I think, Steve, there should be someone who's dedicated to check for that. And I don't know whether you have a documentation clerk or someone who is doing that. And not only includes the check in the policy, it's also a check in compliance and training towards those policies. So I'm not sure what that entails right now. So it's something that we would request that you look at.
So Nav, can I come back to you for a motion then when we receive this report, but that you add that to the motion, and we'll ask Graham to draft something between now and the time of the motion, which will hopefully be nigh.
Yeah.
Lisa, you're up next.
Thank you very much for the opportunity through the chair, just to thank Fred publicly for the work that he did with me on the onboarding and the initial overview. Going through it for the first time is definitely an experience. So I just wanted to express my appreciation and look forward to evolving this document, as it really helps us to do our very best work at this table. Thank you.
Yeah, the new kid on the block gets to be the test subject for a lot of things. So thank you for being a willing participant as well. Deputy Wilkie.
Thank you. Good morning. And through the chair, just for clarity for the board, when the board does create a resolution or pass new bylaws, those are streamed through our strategic management office that oversees policy and development and our research team. So they do see that, and they do reflect changes on an ongoing basis in relation to where the board is taking the organization.
Thanks, Deputy. I think that getting a memo back next month, which I suggested, I think Nav's going to move, would be useful, just so we're checking the box that we know that rather than anecdotally, that we actually know it's taken place. Thank you for that discussion. Is there anything further before we come to a motion? I'm not seeing anything. Graham, were you able to craft something for Nav to consider moving?
Yes, I have a draft for consideration. So the motion would be that the update from the Chief Governance Officer be received, and that the service be requested to review the approved governance policies for any required compliance or training and report back at the February 2023 meeting.
Yes.
How's that sound to you, Nav?
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you. Will you move that, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder for that? Thank you, Lisa. Before I call the question, I want to also express my gratitude to Fred for his incredible work on this project. This was core to the initiatives that we all set out to achieve. And I think Fred's done yeoman service in getting us this far. No pressure for the next steps, Fred, but thank you so much for the great job you've done. And to, and I've forgotten the lady's name who helped you earlier, Svetlana, in the early days when she was helping in some of these drafts as well. So please pass on our gratitude to her as well. So well done. Well done. Look forward to part 2 when we get the next portions implemented. The mover has moved the motion that Graham read out. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we are moving on to memorandum from Board Media Consultant regarding a new concept for Your TV Halton Police Board show on, I guess it's Cogeco 23 or whatever it is on the digital channels. The memo has been circulated. Are there comments or questions? I'm not seeing any. I know that, oh, I'm sorry, Kurt.
Yes.
Kurt has a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kurt. You have the floor, sir.
We're looking at 4.7, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Yeah, I don't have necessarily misgivings about this as an initiative, but I would just pass on a thought that I don't know how these are organized, and I don't know whether it's something that's taken on permanently. It's something that is taken on as a series, as a pilot. However, I guess I'm wondering if we were to try something and it wasn't to go well, how would we deal with it? And hence my thoughts around, knowing more about how these things are organized with Cogeco. Series, ongoing, pilot. I'm not sure of that.
I will answer a couple of those. Maybe ask Kimberly to, I think Kimberly's on the call too. Maybe she could jump in because she has experience outside of the police board with Halton, your Halton TV at Cogeco. But I think the concept would be a monthly show, I think is the idea, with the exception of summer months. Is that yeah. And I think that the process would be, in terms of evaluating, would be more informal. Board members should, be watching the shows as they progress and bring their feedback to the board or to those of us that are involved in directly producing it. But in terms of the way it should manifest, I know that Lisa had a suggestion around potentially making it a time-limited approval subject to further review, which I think would answer the pilot question. Kimberly, did you have anything else to add?
Yes, thank you. We will run until the end of December, unless of course there's a reason to pull back. So we have 3 shows that we would run up until the summer. The potential start date would be April. So we would have April, May, and June. July and August would be months off. So we could rejig then if we needed to, and then we would run through the fall. This is a 2023 opportunity for us. We would need to reapply to Your TV if we wanted to continue it past that as well.
And just to follow up, if I may, Mr. Chair, or Kimberly, how do you see this being played out? I mean, what personalities would be involved in it? What would the structuring of such a program be, et cetera?
Chair, shall I go ahead?
Yeah, I could start. I think that okay. When we discussed the idea informally, and this has been percolating for several months, but when we discussed this idea, it was to be a studio-based show where individuals from either the community or from within public safety sectors would come to the studio and a conversation would be had about topics of interest, whether it be about governance or whether it be about specifically about talking to, one of the team at the service about auto theft or, current topics of relevance to policing and policing governance that are developed on an ongoing basis. Those topics could be brought to the board if that's something, particularly in the first season of this idea. We could certainly bring those ideas to the board and get everybody's input on those if that is satisfactory. The first show that has been tentatively proposed is for taping in March, I believe, for an April air date. Is that correct, Kimberly?
No, unfortunately, it's now April. So
Okay,
the March, yes, we'll start in April would be the first show.
So we could, as part of this, we could bring back a list of the April, May, and June proposals for board's consideration and input before we execute, if that gives you a greater degree of comfort in understanding this and providing your feedback and involvement in it as well.
Yeah, and I guess just as a follow on and hopefully my final comment, I'm just curious about, has thought been given to expertise that may be brought in to address issues? I don't know. I don't know what kind of issues.
So I think that the goal was to get the board's blessing on moving forward with this, and that would be, between now and April, we'd be bringing back all of that as a report and get feedback on that instead of putting a lot of effort into it up front. The goal really is to get the approval to move forward, and then we would continue to report on I guess next steps, guests, topics, etc., and then get the board's ongoing approvals as we approach that first taping in April. There's lots of time to tweak the concept and to refine it as we go forward. It's a bit of a learning journey for all of us. And I certainly want to make sure it's an iterative process that the board's directly involved in every step of the way. That'd be my goal.
So then final comment, if I may, Mr. Chair, then so what we're looking for today is support of concept, is that?
Basically, we're looking for the go-ahead so we can book the space, commit to Cogeco, and start moving forward on the next part, which is actually creating the programming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa, you're up next.
Apologies, Chair. I think Nav was before me and she just maybe had her hand up and down.
Oh, I see. Okay. Sure. Nav.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question around costing. Is that something that has been already developed, or what are the costs around doing this?
So there's a quick line in the proposal that talks about the cost, and the cost basically is zero except for staff time. So it would be predominantly Kimberly's time. Cogeco is free. If we were to want to bring in an expert on a particular topic, we may choose with board approval to pay a stipend or travel fees if it's something of interest, if we can't bring them in remotely. But right now, other than staff time, there is no additional cost to create this show. Is that accurate, Kimberly?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa, I believe you are next now.
Thank you very much, through the chair. I too expressed some of the hesitation or perhaps the evolution of what the concept may look like. And to that end, I did forward to the clerk a potential recommendation that I'm going to ask the board to consider, which would be, we always want to ask ourselves why. So I do appreciate that our community is evolving and changing, and information and education is key to helping strengthen that connection between the Police Services Board and our community. So I wanted to say that in response to this memo, that we would consider that the chair host the show on a 1-year pilot basis. I'm hearing now that it is only until December 2023. I don't know if that was highlighted in the report, but I think it would be incumbent on the board to receive a report back with data measures that would identify reach and determine interest in the show and concept, and then we can make a more informed decision going forward after that. So I want to table that for consideration.
Okay, those are wonderful suggestions. I'll come back to you for that motion in just a moment. Clark, you're up next, sir.
Well, I think we'll need a budget for makeup for the chair. I think that'll have to be included. You knew I was going to say something like that.
You're out of order, sir.
I'm always out of order. This whole court's out of order. No, but I think it's a good initiative. And from a person who does a semi-regular show with your TV, I know it actually does have a large audience that watches, especially in the Milton Halton Hills area, because I'll be out at places and people will comment on things that happen. It also, though, is the other avenue that you use it for is with YouTube and other media ones where you can get the message out that way. So I think it's worthwhile to try and do it. But I don't think it's one that, with a production starting in March, April, that we will have the results back at the end of 2023 that we would want to be able to see to quantify. And I think if it's something that, providing whoever is the chair and our staff are able to do it, in my opinion, you need to run it for about 18 months or so to see, and then get the pickup from that as well. So I think it's a great initiative. I do want to see us, outcomes can be difficult to measure because, and, for it as well. But like I said, I am surprised the number of people that watch the local access shows, and especially on YouTube when they're divided up. So I think it's a good initiative. And I know, Jeff, you would do a tremendous job as host, because I've seen enough of your videos to know that you'd be able to do it and answer, and direct good questions as well.
Thank you. Kurt, sir?
Yeah, I guess part of my hesitation on this is twofold, really. I appreciate the idea. I think we need to be thoughtful about moving forward. I don't know what we have gauged the likelihood of an audience. I would hesitate to think that we would gauge it on the few people that watch these board meetings. And I don't know what plan B would be if it was determined, or we felt that it wasn't going well and we had made a longer term commitment.
So I think, it's anytime you're doing community TV, I have a background in film and television production, so I can tell you that when you are producing a commercial movie or TV show, you put a lot of research and metrics into determining even if there's a market for your particular creation. With community TV, it's a bit of a leap of faith. You'll never really know if you're going to grab the attention of the public, or for that matter, even if it's even if you are getting any kind of traction at all. Certainly the audience would be greater than the people that would tune into a board meeting. There are folks that do like to consume local content. I know that I've watched Clark's show, and I know other people have watched Clark and his previous co-host Mike Cluett's show. I know the mayor has a show of Oakville that has a fair amount of uptake as well. When I've been a guest on that show or a co-host on that show, I've had feedback in the community of appreciation for the content. So it's a bit of a leap of faith, which is why I do support the initiative of making this a time-limited initial approval to review whatever information we can have. And I think Clark is correct too. It takes a while to really get a critical mass. But I think that putting a time-limited approval on this, and then have a chance to look at it, not just from the quantitative results, but even qualitative results in terms of are we imparting quality information? Are we achieving the goal, which ultimately is to raise awareness of the board's role in police governance and oversight in Halton region. So I think it's worthwhile to have that review. I don't know if there is a plan B necessarily from this kind of project. We could certainly look at whether there's a plan B down the road. I mean, we are taking several different We have several different irons in the fire when it comes to public communications, our newsletter, our website, our social media. So this is just one more, mixing my metaphors here. This is one more arrow in our quiver of public relations projects that hopefully will reach its target and achieve some results that the board wants to see. And again, those are awareness of our existence, awareness of our activities, and obviously the ultimate goal of creating additional opportunities to improve public safety in Halton Region. Okay, I'll come back to Lisa. You have a motion in mind. Would you mind, can you read that into the record, or does you say Graham has it, correct?
Graham should have it, yes.
Graham, would you mind reading the motion into the record so we can see if we're comfortable with that?
Absolutely. It's that the chair of the board host the proposed show on a one-year pilot basis and report back in November with data that measures reach and determine interest in the show concept.
Okay. Anything for Kurt? Kurt, your hand's up, sir.
What would the timing of evaluation, like when would we expect the evaluation?
I think it was November. The Graham just was that's in the motion, right? November.
November is in the motion, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Lisa, is that motion satisfactory for you? Would you like to make that motion?
I would, yes, please.
Okay. Was there a seconder to that motion? Anybody? There we go. Thank you, Ingrid. Appreciate it. Further comments or questions? All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, Clark, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, the only concern I have with the motion as presented is with the one-year pilot with summertime. With that, I don't know if it'll give us enough of a time frame to be able to adequately measure what is being asked for on the reach and determine interest in the show. It may not be enough time. And that's my only concern that I have.
Okay. Lisa, you want to address that?
Thank you very much, through the chair. So what I had understood from the commentary surrounding the report, that this was actually a 2023 initiative only. So I'm not sure about the mechanics that would effectuate the difference between in perpetuity or with an evaluation or a consideration before the board once again. So because this is a memo and not a recommendation, perhaps procedurally I could have the secretary or the chair advise what the best process is to understand ongoing commitment and or a consideration to provide further direction once additional information has been submitted by way of a report.
So let me try to help here a little bit. So I think that the motion, I understand, Clark, your concern, and I do appreciate Lisa's suggestion here. I think that I'm comfortable moving forward on the understanding that we've had that there may be limited metrics, but certainly from a qualitative point of view, maybe the quantitative information may not be readily available in November, but from a qualitative point of view, from determining if this is achieving our stated objectives, both as a board and for this specific project, I think that's certainly something we could assess by November. The metrics, as you've stated, would probably be pretty thin by then. In terms of quantitative information, but we could certainly do our best, particularly with determining progress anyway. We wouldn't be able to get a fulsome measure of the audience that we've been able to build, but we would certainly see if there's been progress made towards that. Thank you. Yep. Clark, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's, I can understand the concern of into perpetuity, but a organization like your TV is not going to have you keep doing a show if there's not the interest that the public shows around it. So I can support them having, this coming back and everything as well. But it's interesting, a lot of the same concerns that people have when they hear something like this is similar to what happened when councils first started talking about airing their TV shows, like in doing the council meetings and having them on as well, is there were people concerned about that as well. So I think we do need to try it. And I can support, Lisa, what, my colleague has shared as a motion, because I do think we do need to look at that as well and seeing if we're having that impact. I do 100% think we need to do that, but I just had to express what were my concerns as well.
All good points. So the motion's on the floor, moved by Lisa, seconded by Ingrid. Are there any further comments or questions? All in favor? I'm sorry, can you just put your hands up to make sure? 1, 2, 3. Did I catch everybody? All opposed? 1. Okay, so now how you voted in favor?
I'm sorry, but I don't have enough information on the initiative, so that's why I have trouble voting on this. I think it's a good idea that the community receive some information and have an ability, but I'm not sure about the overall concept and how it would go. And so I would like to see a more of a detailed initiative on exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, and what is the purpose and outcome, what kind of objectives we're ready to meet.
So can I just, maybe I'll just go back over what I had said earlier and how this process works. So part of this, we can't actually secure anything with Cogeco until we agree that we're going to do something. So right now it's a tentative, we want to do this, mention to Cogeco. We have, essentially February, March, and April to have a conversation about this and review information coming back. So that's part of the proposal, is that, in addition to essentially giving this the green light, and like I said, it's a bit of a leap of faith in terms of whether this is a viable project or not, from the perspective of, is this something the community wants? But we have a couple months to provide those details. If you want that put in the motion, we can certainly do that as well.
I think, yes, I agree. I think we should have a motion to evaluate this concept until April. And then, I guess if you're going to want to book some time with Cogeco, that's another matter. But I think internally, as a board, to kind of outline and describe and define the initiative a little more further. If we have this time to do so, that's fine. But I don't think I'm ready to understand whether there's going to be a full benefit to the community. So I'm really looking for how it's going to benefit the community and more planning before I provide my approval.
Okay, so I did something outside of the rules of procedure, and I started asking questions in the middle of a vote. So I apologize first for that, for being a bad chair in that regard. So what I would like to, I think Kurt had his hand up, but he took it down again. I'm not sure. Was that by accident or by design?
Well, you started asking questions, as you just said, in the middle of the vote.
Yeah.
And if I'm allowed to make a comment, I would make the following comment. Obviously, there's been work happening on this that we're not aware of, or that we became aware of today. For me, this is a lot. I don't have enough information to understand what would happen, how it would be organized, who would participate. What's the real objective? I'm struggling to try to understand how it relates to public safety and well-being, if that is a goal. It may well be a good idea, I don't know. I just don't have enough information at this time, as I think my colleague Nav has said, Mr. Chair, to have confidence that it's the right thing to do at this point in time, with crime happening the way it is. It's on the rise in the community. I have people come to me on a regular basis expressing some angst against the crime that's happening in our communities, and I'm not sure that we're necessarily ready for it. Those are my comments.
So thank you. Again, I apologize for the procedural blunder, but since I've already achieved that blunder, we will continue to have the conversation. I do want to respond to a couple things. First of all, this wasn't walked on today, just for absolute clarity, with great respect. Kurt, this was in the agenda and circulated a week ago. So I apologize that you feel that it's just walked on now. One of the ongoing goals we've had as a board, and it is, I'm not sure that we've ever changed this goal, is to create awareness of the board's activities, to create more engagement with our stakeholders, and to seek public, dialogue, with, our customers, who are the general public, the owners, I should say. And this is one more of those tools. This is no different than, having conversations on social media, sending out newsletters. It's just one more method of communicating to the public, but also soliciting feedback. And one of the catalysts for this project in general was the fact that we are about to embark on this strategic planning exercise. And one of the challenges we had last time we did a strategic planning exercise that was managed through the service, but still a public process, was that we had a very difficult time getting public engagement. We had a very difficult time actually getting people to come out to meetings and have that conversation with us. Most of the meetings were poorly attended because it was just really hard to get that interactivity. So this is just one more tool to attempt to achieve that, to facilitate the outcome of what the board is attempting to accomplish. In terms of what does it achieve in terms of public safety? Well, it does a number of things. One, it further informs the strategic planning process. It creates greater awareness of the fact that the Police Service Board exists and what we do. And it also allows us to highlight public safety ideas. So, for example, if one of the shows were to talk about probably the single largest complaint that I've been hearing recently is about car thefts, one of those shows could very easily be on the, interviewing or talking to members of the service about how best to steel yourselves against car theft in your, for your vehicles, and creating awareness of what the service is doing, and highlighting the importance that the Police Service Board puts on those initiatives. So putting a finer point on all of this, it is a very aptly pointed out or suggested by Lisa. It's being framed now as a pilot, so a test to see if we can achieve those metrics and if we can achieve those goals that are actually baked into what we do as a board. And if not, then it doesn't continue. But I'm at your hands. I don't need another project on my agenda. If this isn't the wish of the board, or you want more time to study it, I'm happy to take your direction in that regard. So I've got Lisa wanted to comment, and I'll come back to you, Kurt, for a further comment.
Thank you, through the chair. It sounds like to the board, the memo is not providing the information. I heard some things from you, the chair, talking about how this is to tie to a communication strategy, how it's looking to improve engagement for feedback into the board strategic planning. We talked about gauging interest. We talked about how to determine topics. I'm wondering if we refer this to the next meeting, maybe we can ask our media consultant if there's a deadline where we need to signal interest to the URTV, and we bring that back, taking into consideration the comments that we heard today for a fresh report, not a memo, in the next meeting of the board. Thoughts on that to the chair?
Thank you. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. In fact, I mean, a referral motion takes preference over everything else, so we could certainly do that. I would be willing to work with with our media consultant to make sure that my comments are reflected in such a further report. And Kimberly, you had a question. There was a question that was posed to you in terms of does this does this challenge our commitment or request for commitment from Cogeco if we put another month in the cycle?
I will have to check back in with Stu Aker, the producer there, to ensure that we are fine. But currently our producer is not even back from mat leave yet. So I think we have a little bit of time to work on the project, and we'll just float it along, and I'll come back with some recommendations next time.
Okay, so Lisa, it sounds like your suggestion would work. And I'd be willing to take that motion. Let me just go to Kurt first, and then I'll come back to you for that motion. Okay, Kurt?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to clarify, I'm not insinuating that this is a walk-on. What I'm trying to make the point is that this is the first that the board has seen this. Yes, it was in the material that we received a week ago, but this is the first time that we've come together as a board to discuss it. And I think the discussion that we've had most recently has been very helpful.
Okay.
I certainly support that we defer it and come back with a little more information. Fair
enough. I appreciate that, and I apologize if I suggested your inference. I just wanted to mention that we did have a this idea didn't just come out of the blue. We did have a conversation. I don't remember the exact timing that we had this. It was a while ago when we were brainstorming ideas around achieving more communication. But I do accept your point, and I do think that the concept of deferring this for a month for further analysis and for a more fulsome report is worthwhile. I think this is a good conversation, and I do believe that we can only bring value to this entire process by giving it another cycle to ferret out the details. So thank you for that. Thank you for those comments. Lisa, I'll come back to you. You're moving that we defer the item to the February meeting to provide greater details and a proposal. Is that correct?
It is due. So this takes precedent, and then we'll have to vote down the previously tabled motion.
Why don't just withdraw that motion? Then we don't have to vote it down.
Okay, so I'd like to first withdraw the previous motion.
Is that acceptable to you, Ingrid?
I will be abstaining.
No, I'm asking, are you prepared to withdraw?
You can withdraw it, but as we vote for the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Procedurally, that's off the table. We'll do the referral motion, which is just simply to refer to the next cycle with taking into consideration all conversations held at this board meeting. Graham, is that fine for you as a motion?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Thank you. Can I get a seconder for that motion, please? Thank you, Nav. Further comments or questions? I guess is not debatable. So all in favor? Thank you. And all opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 4.8, new draft provincial regulations. Now, I believe that for the most part, these are provided for information because there is no recommended changes. Yeah, there's no recommended change at this point. Fred, maybe you could frame this for us.
Yeah, so the Solicitor General's office has gone out to the general public to comment on this new suite of regulations under the 2019 Community Safety and Policing Act. The act itself is not yet in force because it requires certain regulations to accompany it in order to be to operationalize it, if you will. This is the second big suite in recent months, and I've reviewed them all. I don't think that there's cause for any major comments, but we became aware of it because OAPSB posted it, and I took it upon myself to review them. So I'm just reporting all of that. The deadline is the 4th of January, hence that's why it's on the agenda today.
Okay.
Or sorry, 4th of February.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Members of the board, the chief wants to chime in?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Only we have the our liaison, our advisor online. He may want to comment on that. It's a work in progress, but we believe it's going to take a long time before some things actually come into being. But I know David's here.
Yeah, I mean, Fred framed it pretty well. I think the intention at the moment is that the new Community Safety and Policing Act will be enforced sometime towards the end of this year, maybe into early next year. So before that could happen, as Fred said, there are a number of regulations. So probably over the next 6 months or so, you are going to see regulations being posted on the registry for public comment. So the summaries on the, I had to read through them. They're pretty good in framing what they are. A lot of these regulations are fairly procedural in nature. So if there are any specific questions anyone's got, they're free to reach out to me and I can provide responses on an individual basis, which I think would be more helpful.
Thank you. Ken, you had a comment?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair, I can advise you that I've been working with the Police Legal Advisors Committee of the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police to review these regulations as they come forward and to provide comment. So the ones that are before you today, a lot of them are fairly technical in relation to special constables. And I agree with Ted that the regulation dealing with a collection of identifying information in certain circumstances, which was the regulation brought in to deal with carding, that again, there aren't any substantial changes to that. The disclosure of personal information regulation, it pretty much is what it was beforehand. There aren't a lot of changes there. Our group is trying to recommend some modernization and to cover up some gaps in the regulation. But we're putting our submissions together and they shall be put in by February 4th.
Thank you, Ken. Members of the board, comments or questions? Nav, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question within the service. So when these regulations have been established, or I guess they're always ongoing sometimes. So is there a dedicated person or documentation clerk that is responsible for implementing that within the service procedures? Any changes?
Who's going to take that?
Well, Ken may want to as well, but certainly we review them through our legal department. So Ken and staff, along with deputies and I and executive officers, we also have people that are dedicated to policy development internal to the service. So they'll make sure that we align with any adequacy standards. And the SolGen also through our advisors will periodically do audits and inspections of police services. They'll normally pick 3 or 4 more high priority or areas of greater risk and audit us on those sorts of things. I would say in general, we do very well in those audits and we're happy with the results. There's always something that's identified. We haven't done one of those in person for a while because of COVID and other things that have held that back, but there's a number of checks and balances, but we are very happy with our level of compliance through the adequacy standards.
Mm-hmm. Just another comment, Mr. Chair, if I can. So with these new regulations, how well prepared is the service to implement them in the coming year?
Well, through the chair, these regulations cause the deputies and I no concern at all. We're probably already doing them. If there are minor tweaks in the area of special constables, we'll change something in relation to them or are reporting on collection of information we do already. I do not see any issue with these for the Halton Police.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Nav. Ken, did you have further comment?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, just to remind you that as these regulations have been coming forward, and as Fred pointed out, this is just another batch that's come forward, that police services across the province, OACP, OAPSB, have been at the table to assist the ministry and to consult with them in the drafting of these regulations. And we've had members of the service who've sat on review committees. I know that Superintendent Sandy played a leading role in the development of the new regulation dealing with use of force. So we're on top of it.
Thanks, Ken. Further comments or questions? So at this point, the action would be to receive this report. So can I get a motion to do that, please? Thank you, Kurt, seconded by. Thank you, Nav. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Operational verbal updates, public section. Chief? I'm sorry.
No, just I'll ask the deputies if they have any. I think Paul's got his hand up first.
Yeah,
of all.
I saw Roger as well. So we can go to Paul first.
We skipped over 4.9
We did?
ALPR.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes. This is another limited tendering item, and it's with respect to license plate recognition system, or ALPR. Anybody have any comments or questions on this report? Chief?
It really is just the utilization of funds which have been provided or will be provided by the province of Ontario, given the change to the VALTAG regulations and rules around VALTAGs on license plates, so that police services will have access to ALPR systems for monitoring some of the issues with registration of vehicles. So it's not a cost to the service, as Paul would say. It's money in from the province, money out, but we need to spend it.
Yeah, the motion is clear that it's the use of a provincial grant funding. So members of the board, any further, I'm sorry, Deputy Roger, did you have comment?
One thing I will add is that the deployment model is actually quite interesting. We're going to be pushing out 12 of these ALPR units in each district. So Burlington, Oakville, and the North End. This provides an excellent investigative tool for our officers, and certainly it helps with road safety initiatives. So just for the board's awareness.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Wilkie. Members of the board, can I get a motion to approve this, please? Thank you, Clark. Seconded by Kurt. Thank you very much. Further comments or questions before I call the vote? All in favor? That is carried. And now, really this time, operational verbal updates. And I saw that I think Deputy Wilkie has his hand up for that as well. Or maybe that's what you had your hand up for originally.
No, I do have two quick updates for the board. Just to make you aware that the Halton Regional Police right now is hosting the first EDI training program for the province. And this was born from our experience as an organization when we created our EDI unit back in late 2019 that the board supported. Our unit has grown, and we realized through our experience that there's not a lot of training for people who have to operate and navigate the EDI space for police organizations. So this week we have 30 participants who are EDI practitioners from across the province. The need is so great that we plan on running 3 courses this year. It's been fully supported through subject matter experts who have created modules for the deliverables in the program, and it's been supported financially by the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police. And the reason I bring this up is that the drivers, the people that are really working hard behind the scenes, are from Halton. So our own EDI Sergeant Ryan Smith is facilitating the program this week. We also have Superintendent Jeff Sandy and Staff Sergeant Dave Tutt, who are part of the education, training, and professional development team. And they have been helping to build the course standards with those subject matter experts who are community members, who are experts in their fields that can help guide things like race-based data, cultural competence, critical conversations, and so forth. So you may see that on our social media platform. Very proud of our members who are working hard to deliver this, and it's certainly having a massive impact on the capacity of the near 50 police services across the province. Secondly is next week is Black History Month, and we have 2 events, and I believe those have been shared through Kimberly. So there's an opportunity for the board to attend on February 1st for the Black History Month flag raising at 10 o'clock. And then we have the film screening at your location on Spears on February 2nd. So we look forward to engaging our community and the board as you're available.
Thank you. I'm wondering if we can make sure those get populated in the board calendar. If they're not already, I haven't checked, but if we could facilitate that, that'd be great. Ingrid, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So Deputy Wilkie, the EDI training sounds absolutely fabulous and something that's extremely important. Is this a new initiative, or is this something that we're repeating and refreshing?
Through the chair, it's a brand new initiative because there was nothing for people who have to work in that space. And so it was actually, the idea was actually born from our EDI unit. Said, I wish we had a program that would help, but would have helped us back then. And because of that, conversations were had at a provincial level at the EDI committee with the OACP. And we began to get traction throughout the province, and then financial support to actually put it together and pay subject matter experts to build the modules. So this is the first course being offered this week here in Halton.
And the SMEs that we're working with are community representatives that we deal with, stakeholders?
Well, there's subject matter experts in their specific field. So we have approximately 15 different modules like cultural competence, race-based data. So we've tapped into those people who are they work in that field. They're educators. They're not just the smartest police officer in the room teaching the program. It's truly academics that have built those programs, and then they come and actually deliver it to the participants.
So, something that the OACP will probably try to introduce in other services as well.
Well, this is actually for the entire province. So the OACP owns this course now. We just happen to have many stakeholders helping facilitate and coordinate the program. So the idea is we've created it. Now the OACP owns it, and they're tasked with delivering it on an annual basis based upon need.
Yeah, great initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ingrid. Is that all for you, Deputy Wilkie? Deputy Hill, anything from you today, sir? No. And Chief, you said you had nothing. Is that correct?
No, a couple of things.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's okay. Firstly, I think Roger mentioned Black History Month, but it's great that we've been invited by a number of our diverse groups and organizations within our Black citizens here in Halton, CCAH, and others to events on both February 1st and 2nd, which really speaks highly to the ongoing positive relationships that we have with our diverse communities. I wanted to just step back and speak for a minute on our complaints report that was tabled earlier today. Normally I do this. I am very satisfied with the level of complaints, if I could put it that way, to have a total of 100 complaints, down slightly from 2021. But amongst the hundreds of thousands of interactions that our frontline police officers have with members of the public, to only have 100 complaints certainly speaks, I think, a great deal and very loudly about the professionalism on a day-to-day basis, on an ongoing basis, by the men and women on our front lines. A number of those 100 are then dealt with, either mediated or unsubstantiated, and even the ones where they may be unsubstantiated or the complainant is not happy with the initial outcome, they appeal to the OIPRD in a few cases, and the OIPRD has settled on the same conclusion that our investigators through the professional standards branch would have made. So again, I think it really should give you each as board members a level of comfort that the professionalism of the men and women of the Halton Regional Police Service is exhibited on a daily basis by the low number of complaints. The other thing that I just wanted to speak about briefly in this public session, it was on September 12th of last year that an individual named Sean Petrie started his reign of terror that day in Mississauga with the shooting and murder of an on-duty Toronto Police Service officer, and then shooting a citizen to steal a vehicle from that location. And then he proceeded to Milton, where he shot 3 people in a auto shop in the town of Milton, killing 2 of them and seriously wounding the 3rd. One of our officers attended the scene, was able, through investigative abilities and speaking with other victims who were there, was able to identify Sean Petrie as the person responsible. And that was relayed to our communication staff, who were able to enable some technological systems, and we tracked the individual to the Hamilton Cemetery. At the Hamilton Cemetery, as you will know, the individual engaged in a very heavy firefight with two detectives from the Hamilton Police, and also with 2 of our tactical team members. Mr. Petrie was subsequently killed that afternoon in the cemetery in Hamilton, which initiated an SIU investigation. Each time an SIU investigation goes on, we also do what we've always called a Section 11 administrative review of those horrific situations to make sure that all of our policies have been adhered to. We've had the proper training in place. Officers had the proper equipment for whatever the situation was that they were dealing with. I just want to say here publicly, and we'll deal with a more detailed report elsewhere, that we are absolutely, we cannot say enough about the heroism of our 2 tactical team members and of the 2 Hamilton police officers that day. We will recognize our officers and the Hamilton officers, and the Chief of Hamilton will do the same in a number of ways moving forward. And they certainly acted with heroism and bravery and are very deserving of our thanks and recognition. We also have, just for the board's information, of course, our organizational wellness program was very responsive that day, and I can assure you both of our officers are doing very well and have been very well supported. But I think it needed to be said now that the SIU investigation is in fact done, because in those investigations, as you will always see, the director of the SIU will conclude with a comment, something along the lines of, and we did not find any reason to lay criminal charges against the officers in this situation. There was nothing remotely criminal about the actions of any of the officers that day, and they certainly did what they were required to do and performed their duties so admirably. I know the SIU director can't say that, but as the chief of police, I can. So thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Any questions from members of the board on any of the operational verbal updates? Seeing none, we are going to move along here, and I believe that we are done our public agenda. So I'm sorry, Chief, go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure, I know we've had some communication with CCAH, and I thought there's an item here.
Oh, thank you. Yep, that's coming up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Before we move into closed session, I want to ask board members indulgence to refer to an item which is in our correspondence log, and this is a request from the community Caribbean Community Association of Halton for funding. It is we've been supporting CCAH for many years. Their initiatives are in lockstep with our EDI policies with Halton Region, with the Halton Regional Police Service, and this has been requested by the chair, Andrew Terrell, who spoke to me about this in some detail earlier this month. For some reason, and we apologize for this, I thought that the correspondence was CC to the secretary, which it was not, which is why it only ended up in your correspondence today. That should be a protocol that we make sure happens going forward, but for whatever reason, I missed in the CCs that it was not, because normally what would happen is that Graham would get it and put it in the correspondence log, and it would be provided to you in advance. So I apologize for that up front. And having said that, I will go to Clark Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would certainly support this and would be willing to make a motion to that effect. We know this organization. It's well known to us, started by Veronica Tyrell and now carried on by Andrew, who is a former Halton Police Board member as well. And I had the pleasure of serving with him. So I guess the question I would ask is about for making sure in the future we get it early, but you've already indicated about the steps taken for that as well. And I guess the other question would be about for our policy on this one. This does meet our policies that we have. So that would be either to you or through to Fred that it meets our policies to continue supporting.
Sure. I'll let Fred respond to that in just a second. I do want to say in terms of the procedure, one of the next steps, as you know, we approved a policy on use of what we now refer to as community funds. So the policy's been approved, but the procedure part is the one piece that is still a work in progress. The goal was to have an application on the website and to have a formal tracking system, which is not in place yet. This request came in sort of in between that period. And again, this speaks to why having a formal tracking system makes some sense. And that's why, we had requested that happen, but it's through nobody's fault except through time. That had not been processed yet. And unfortunately, as I said, through a email snafu, the secretary was not copied on this correspondence. So thank you, Claire. I'll come back to you for your motion when questions have been exhausted. Lisa.
Thank you through the chair. Thanks for the procedural responses. That was on my mind as well. I'm wondering how might the board extend an invitation to CCAH to come and present to us, perhaps at one of our upcoming board meetings?
So this is, I actually spoke to Andrew about doing an update, and it's certainly something that we could put on the agenda as soon as possible, as soon as he's available and as soon as there's room on our agenda to do that. But it would be great to have a progress report from his team as well. I agree.
Do you need anything formal to that effect, or will this suffice?
No, I think that making it formal to request a presentation, I think doesn't hurt. It gets it on our action registry, and that's always a good thing. So thank you for that suggestion. I think Clark wants to make the motion, so perhaps he would be willing to put that in his motion as well. Thank you. I'm getting a thumbs up there. Kurt, you're up next, sir.
Yeah, I think some of what I wanted to say has already been said by my colleague Lisa, but I'm happy to second the motion.
Oh, thank you. I was about to ask that. So just want, for the sake of public disclosure, I don't have it handy. Graham, do you have the actual request handy?
Just pulling that up, sir.
Yeah, because I can, if you could quickly craft the motion that we will ask for a mover and seconder for, that'd be great. While Graham is doing that, I will point out that CCH is very active getting ready for Black History Month. We heard about the flag raising. There's a number of initiatives throughout the month, and I strongly recommend visiting their website. There's some terrific programming happening over the month of February, including several screenings of the film documentary on Jean Augustine, who is quite an important figure in that community. And there's lots of information on those opportunities for the screening, both the gala screening as well as screenings that will be provided for students available on their website at CCAH.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your patience. So the draft motion would be that the Halton Police Board approve a donation of $15,000 to CCAH's youth leadership initiatives to cover costs associated with programming and operations from the community fund, and that the CCH be invited to make a presentation at a future board meeting.
Perfect. Exactly.
Exactly what Clark said. I heard it.
Yep. Exactly what I said.
And Kurt is seconding that motion. Kurt, can I just get a thumbs up or a wave? Thank you. Okay, can I call the question all in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Congratulations to CCH, and we thank Andrew and your team for your contributions to our community and to the Caribbean Canadian community throughout Halton region. We look forward to seeing you formally at the board at some point in the very near future, as time permits. So, members of the board, we are at that point where we need to move into closed session. I'm going to look.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We haven't looked at the action registry or received the public correspondence yet.
Right, that was the public correspondence piece. So that's thank you. That's can I get a motion to receive the public correspondence as circulated, please? Moved by Clark, seconded by Kurt. Thank you very much. All in favor? That's carried. And the public registry, Fred, did you want to do a quick review of our registry entries, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. So the main items next month, I'm to arrange for a discussion on complaint management. We actually went down that road a bit today, and I'll talk with the chief offline on how we can do that. And also there's a policy, an updated policy on HR that's in the works, which is scheduled to be before the board next month as well. And I've been working with the chief staff, notably Tracy, on that. They still have a lot of things to update. And finally, there's the community fund policy is actually on the scheduled for adoption next month. The board had deferred it in December, Mr. Chair.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, the board motion regarding the budget of December has been placed. The chief's response to that has been placed in the correspondence or the correspondence folder on your on Dillatrust.
On Dillatrust, right?
Yep.
Thank you. Questions? Can I get a motion to receive the correspondence or the action registry, please? Thank you, Ingrid. Seconded by. Thank you, Clark. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, now, have I done everything right now, Graham? Good. I'm going to look for a motion to go into closed session in just a moment. But before I do that, I just want to thank everybody that's joined us on our streaming broadcast today of our police board meeting. If you're members of the public or members of the service that are monitoring your police board, we want to thank you for your interest and your time today. We are moving into a session that is confidential, so we will be signing off momentarily, but we do appreciate your participation and we welcome your feedback. You can always contact us through our website. You can contact me directly at chair@haltonpoliceboard.ca if you wish to do so. But your input, your observations, and your comments are greatly appreciated. This is your police board. It is your police service, and we certainly respect that and want to maintain that dialogue. So with that, I want to ask for a motion to move into closed session, please. Thank you, Clark. Seconded by. Thank you, Lisa. All in favor? Terrific. We're going to be moving to a different Zoom broadcast, so please look for that link in your email. It is now 10:48. I'm going to reconvene this meeting at, let's reconvene at 11 o'clock. Give everybody a chance to refresh their coffee cups or do whatever you need to do. We'll see you at 11 o'clock for our confidential